This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
Hey everyone, this is Austin.
What's going on, guys? This is John.
And you're listening to the Voice of the Fan Sports Podcast. Okay, John, we're back. Week 2 is wrapped up in college football. A lot happier on this end. I know the happiness continues over in East Lansing as well. Purdue on the board with its first win against Vanderbilt. You know, we'll dive in here. We'll recap that game a lot better than the Nevada game, or really how the Nevada game ended. Then we'll preview the first game under the lights against a big-time opponent in TCU, Gary Patterson's Horned Frogs coming into town. Then we'll do some quick recruiting notes really fast, just mainly about the guys that were at the game at Vanderbilt and potentially some interesting players coming into the fold that decommitted from original schools that Purdue was high on. So will that lead to anything? And then we'll do our new normal around the horn, Big Ten update, and then just top 25 on top of that. With the Big Ten, obviously there was an upset in the Big Ten, but we'll get to that here in a second. So we'll jump right in here. Vanderbilt, Purdue, we get our first win of the season, and it was pretty electric, if I do say so myself, John. I know you caught a little bit of it while you were watching at
dedication
work.
To our podcast. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to watch the Purdue Vandy Michigan Army game. And then I was like, you know what? I have the capability to watch like 4 or 5 games. Just got to minimize these windows a little bit. So I watched a lot of games at work on Saturday. Muted it when customers came in, but you know, other than that, it was on full blast. But I was listening to the Michigan game. But yeah, I was watching the Vandy Purdue game.
So, Mr. 5 screen, I got a picture of it over there.
Yeah, I had to send him a picture.
It was a pretty sweet setup, especially at work. Good way to spend a Saturday making money.
They just got us like new monitors too, so it was like they're a bigger monitor. It's a new screen, so it's a good picture. I'm like, man, what clutch time to get new monitors. Football season's here.
Right, exactly. That's big. That's big time. So we got to see a little bit. Purdue, again, 42-24 over Vanderbilt. It was pretty close, back and forth scoring. I think at the end of the half, it was 14-10. And then going into the second half, Purdue put up 14 in the third and fourth quarter. It got a little interesting. I think Purdue fans, including myself, were a little bit nervous when Vanderbilt scored. I mean, immediately after Purdue took a lead, scored again and cut our lead down. And it was just one of those like, oh boy, here we go again. But Purdue was able to hang on. Defense played well again. I thought they did a really good job. Vanderbilt's running back, who's an Illinois transfer, who had a huge game against Purdue, I think it was 2 years ago, that was kind of the talk. He ran, Keyshawn Vaughn, 17 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown. So really good job by Purdue limiting Vanderbilt. That's what they're that's what they're really good at doing. Keyshawn Vaughn, one of the best running backs in the SEC. And for me to say that, we obviously know that he's kind of eclipsing backs at LSU, Alabama, Florida. I mean, he is one of the top backs in the SEC. So really good job by Purdue to kind of hone that in and contain him. I thought Riley Neal, the Ball State transfer, his stat line looks pretty, but it wasn't pretty until the end of the game. He got taken out at times, and Deuce Wallace, I think it was a redshirt freshman, had to come in and play some series because Riley Neal was just really out of sync. He finished 24 completions, 378 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. The interception, he basically threw it to the wide open cornerback. I don't think there was a receiver within 15 yards of this thing. He just lofted it up for whatever reason. It didn't even look like he was trying to throw it away. So, again, defensively, I would want to see that tighten down towards the end of the game, but overall, really good. I think Karlaftis played well. Certainly not 14 pressures like last time. I think Vanderbilt keyed in. I saw him get double teamed a lot. So that's a really good thing because Derek Barnes had a really good game, in my opinion. But let's talk about the offense. Basically, we're sounding the air raid sirens. Connor's gonna put that in, so it's gonna sound way cooler as I explain the lame joke. I got to explain that. Maybe Connor edit this out. I don't know, or we'll keep it post.
I kind of like the rambling explanation of the sound effect.
We're sounding the air raid sirens. Elijah Sindelar, 509 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. And, I mean, just basically the run game was non-existent. There was no run game. Xander Horvath had 15 yards. Elijah Sindelar had 10 yards. 2 of his rushes were quarterback sneaks, by the way, on a 3rd and 1 and then on the goal line. And then King Duro came in 5 for 9. So both running backs averaged under 2 yards a carry. I think that total is 34 yards rushing for Purdue. Yep. So we aired it out big time. And so we'll kind of go down here. Rondell Moore, 13 catches, 220 yards, and a touchdown. Oh, boy.
Yeah,
leads the nation in catches and yards right now.
I thought Darryl
Sindelar
Stewart.
leads them.
I thought Darryl Stewart for us had a good game against Western Michigan, but boy, oh boy, did Rondell Moore just I don't even know how to put this nicely. Bent over Vanderbilt secondary.
He's just so electric. He's just so fast. I saw a little thing from the Draft Network, who is it's just basically a hub for draft scouts that put out mocks and are really good at what they do. One of the guys was like, after 2 games, I'm 100% sold. Rondell Moore's a first-round pick next year when he declares. So I couldn't agree more. He's an excellent player, just fundamentally sound. I was yelling at him a little bit at the TV because he was making some mental mistakes, some drops, just trying to do a little too much. But boy, he settled in. And like I said, he leads the nation in catches and yards. Cinderella leads the nation in, I think, completions and yards and maybe touchdowns. So just all out air attack. David Bell, he looked really fluid. 4 catches for 82 yards. Jared Sparks got his first ever Purdue touchdown on a 50-yard bomb, which was really awesome to see. Ahmad Anderson got involved early. A bit of a dangerous hurdle in the middle of the field, John. I'm not really big on trying to hurdle someone in the middle of the field because he got absolutely smoked. I think it was like a safety or someone.
You'll hear about a play tomorrow that I'll send you tonight so you can watch it. Like Michigan State did like their own little Philly special or whatever. And the work he tries to dive into the end zone from the 4-yard line and got sandwiched.
Ooh.
It wasn't, if you watch it in slow motion, it wasn't as bad, but live action, I was like, hey, Brian, you're at the 4. You're not diving into the end zone.
Oh, man. The tight ends, actually, they feasted. They had 3 of the 5 touchdowns from Sindelar. Bryson Hopkins had 2 touchdowns, and Payne Durham, the redshirt freshman, had 1. Payne Durham kind of stepping up after junior Darius Pittman left the program. I think it was a little earlier in the week before the game. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different receivers for the 509-yard total. I mean, I don't know. I'm not too upset about it. If Purdue can continue to do this and Sindelar's got a heck of a cannon for an arm, I mean, he could probably throw all day long, and it could just basically be our run game as the short passing game. I don't know. It's just, kind of talking about the offensive line at that point, they didn't allow a sack, which is phenomenal. And that is with losing starting right guard Matt McCann, who it's not looking really good for him. So Mark Strickford, DJ Washington, 2 guys that I thought stepped in and did a really, really good job of holding the right side down with the redshirt freshman Will Bremmel, the tackle over there. So the right side just got a whole lot more question mark, but I thought they did an excellent job. Vanderbilt has a couple of really good guys on their defensive line. So overall, pass pro-wise, they look great. But we're going to have to figure something out for the run game. As much as I want to throw the ball, 80 times a game, I just don't think it's feasible. And I really just want to continue to see more out of King Doerue. He had 5 carries for 9 yards. I mean, he just adds a little bit more of a dynamic, in my opinion. Xander Horvath is that big power guy. He's got a little quickness. Bring him in on the short yardage. Bring him in on pass pro. I mean, goal line, whatever. He's that big back that's going to get in there. But I think the way the Purdue passing attack is developing, you just need that extra flair, and really a back that can be dynamic. Catching the ball in the backfield is just going to add that extra component to something that is already, firing on all cylinders. So just curious to continue to see how either the run game develops or if the short run game, through the pass develops, and that's just kind of the extension there. Does King Doerue continue to get more touches? It looks like he's going to be the second guy, behind Xander Horvath. Haven't seen Dejon Hewitt much. So I'm thinking it's these two guys. Tario Fuller obviously broke his jaw and is probably out for a while, and same with Richie Worship. I mean, he hasn't been right for 2 years with that ACL. So it looks like it's these two guys, and we're just going to have to figure out what we're doing on the ground game. But overall, an impressive performance, just a few mental miscues. Sindelar, I think, can continue to get better with some of his decision-making. I know Purdue fans will remember there's a screen pass, and he basically lofted a layup into the air to be intercepted instead of doing anything else with it. Take the sack, throw it to the ground, do something, but don't do that, because it was a little bit of a pivotal time for that interception. But overall, I thought great decision-making, excellent ball placement, a lot of tight window throws, especially to Bryson Hopkins. I just couldn't believe he was squeezing them in there. So I think really exciting seeing how the line progressed against a better opponent in Vanderbilt, and the receivers and Sindelar taking that step forward and continue to build that chemistry. So really excited to see, more David Bell. Obviously, we'll see Rondell more. And then at that point, it's just, start flipping coins on who's going to catch the ball. But awesome week 1 win for Purdue. So, John, any other extra thoughts there?
Well, what I watched of it, I thought the really impressive touchdown throws when I texted you that Bryson Hopkins touchdown. Sindelar really just kind of threaded the needle there and fit it in a tight window. If you guys can continue to just pass like this, I think, like you said, it's almost kind of like what the Lions tried to do with Golden Tate last year in the NFL, but I think it can work more effectively in college. It's kind of just hit Rondell more on some drags, maybe in the screen game, couple wide receiver reverses. Let him kind of just be your playmaker, because the 8 carries, 8 carries for 15 yards from your starting running back, a whole whopping 1.9 yards per carry. Not going to cut it. So I think obviously the game plan is to give it to Rondell Moore and then spread it out, because if you look at it, Rondell Moore, like you said, 13 catches, and then the next closest is David Bell with 4. So you're pretty much just, let's get our playmaker the ball, which is smart, until somebody can stop him, feed him. And then you got guys like David Bell, Jared Sparks. I never even heard of Jared Sparks, but looks like he had a big play. And then guys like Ahmad Anderson, Bryson Hopkins, who's a great talent at tight end. So, Milton Wright even getting on the box score, huh?
Yeah, but it just really just seems like whoever gets hot, if you get hot first, you're going to play more. I mean, there's so many talented receivers on this team.
And I think defensively, the most impressive thing was holding Keyshawn Vaughn to 3.3 yards per carry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, a big win for Purdue. Me and you both thought this was going to be a grinded out type win for them, which it looked like it was going to be. And I think I predicted 28-24. But hey, at least I predicted the Vanderbilt score right. I got half right. I was half right. But you look at after the first half, it's 14-10, and then Purdue comes out and has that 14-point third quarter, and the defense really showed up in that third quarter, which was obviously the difference when you look at the box score. So it was 14-14 in the fourth. But I think a really impressive win for Purdue. I wouldn't say a must win, but I mean, you don't want to start the year 0-2. So they came out, they responded after the loss against Nevada. Which, speaking of Nevada, holy wow.
Boy, I was very wrong on our
yeah. If you guys
pick'ems.
listen to the
Crap.
Michigan State side, we do pick'ems, and yeah, I seen that score the next day. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But
It was I saw that. I'm like, boy, I missed I missed there.
Either Oregon was really angry or Nevada's bad. But great response from Purdue. I mean, it's what you want to see going into the game against TCU. Dropping 42 points on a Vanderbilt defense that played Georgia pretty well is really impressive.
Yes. So really transitioning, we got our first night game at Ross-Ade Stadium this year, 7:30 p.m. TCU comes into town. Horned Frogs, Gary Patterson. Really, Gary Patterson's been there forever, and I feel like has put TCU on the map. Really good defensively, defensive team. I thought they should have beat Ohio State last year. They lost a lot of talent, though, on their defense. It'll be interesting to see. They're coming off a bye week after playing an FCS school. Just a little bit about TCU. They run a 2-quarterback system. They've got more of a running guy, and then they've got a freshman that can sling it around a little bit. But really their focus and their identity on offense, in my mind, just kind of as an overview, is the running game. They got 3 guys, 2 quarterbacks, and a really talented, big running back with a more experienced offensive line. Probably one of the bigger lines Purdue's has faced up to this point before we get into Big Ten play and we see the monsters of, Wisconsin and Iowa and all those guys. But anyway, so it's going to be another test for this defense. I know TCU has run a hurry-up spread style as well. They've got a guy that if Rondell Moore had a less good brother, Jalen Reagor would be him. And I say that as in a complimentary way because obviously Rondell Moore is one of the best, if not the best receiver in college football. So just being under him.
Whoa, better than Jerry Jeudy? Are we having a hot take here?
No. Just a general.
I was about to DM Connor and say we need a siren in here. Woo.
No, none of that. That's another that's a whole nother topic that we can get into. But those guys at Alabama are immensely good. Anyway, so you've got Jalen Reagor, you've got the running game of TCU. It's going to be another test. We're going to see if this defensive line can continue to kind of stymie the running game. I think at the beginning of the Vanderbilt game, it took a little bit of time to settle in. Keyshawn Vaughn was kind of getting big gains, and he was very fired up. You see him chirping at the defense, but they locked in, and they were able to kind of hone him down and close him down. Going to be a similar story with TCU, except I think it's going to be better. So Purdue needs to be on that early. And then what are we going to get out of George Karlaftis and Derek Barnes? I mean, Karlaftis, when he wasn't being double-teamed, was continuing to get pressure on the quarterback. Derek Barnes got a couple sacks against Vanderbilt. I mean, the two of these guys together is really exciting to watch. And, I mean, Purdue might have its next 2 den of defensive ends, so to speak. Definitely in Karlaftis, and we'll love to see Derek Barnes continue to develop his pass rush plan. But what can these 2 guys do? I think the freshman is the more of the throwing quarterback for TCU. Not a lot of game experience. I mean, 1 game against an FCS opponent, and then you sit a week. So you're not able to kind of get into a routine or a rhythm. Can those 2 guys make him uncomfortable and give the secondary a chance? Oh my gosh, Kenneth Major and Dedrick Mackey, the 2 cornerbacks for Purdue, they played, I thought, well. Again, both of them were banged up. So the fact that they continued through the entire game was positive. I think they gave up some easy ones. So Purdue's going to need to lock that down. And Nick Holt, I absolutely loved Nick Holt's play calling. Boy, wasn't sitting back. He was on the sideline, for those that didn't know, instead of being up in the booth after Brom had announced that he was going to be up there again, but he changed his mind. I loved his aggressive play calling. Brom has been kind of, banging the gavel for a more aggressive play style from his defense, get some plays, force some turnovers, give different looks, and I think that's what we got. And I think it really confused Riley Neal for Vanderbilt, who's supposed to be an experienced quarterback with over 7,000 yards, at his career in Ball State. So love to continue to see that, and it's going to be another challenge, again, for Purdue. Mix up looks, confuse the freshman when he's out there, hone in on the running game. So before we kind of dive into how Purdue wins, just a quick little injury report. Not that I know. Yeah, not that I know everything, but obviously at the end of the game, Elijah Sindelar took a hit, went to the tent. He's got I don't know if there's such a thing as a slight concussion. I feel like you're either concussed or you're not concussed. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but
from experience, I've had concussions. They can be, I wouldn't say the concussion's a concussion, but like they can linger longer. Like I had one that lasted like a week, and then I had one where I couldn't pass the concussion test to get cleared by the Michigan high school, whatever, for like a month and a half. So there can be more severe and more minor concussions.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Emmons.
Well, yeah, not a doctor, just unfortunate experience with concussions.
So, yeah, Sindelar's dealing with a slight concussion. I think we'll hear more tomorrow. I'm betting that he is going to be playing. Jeff Brom has all the confidence in the world in Jack Plummer, the redshirt freshman, though. So as much as I'd like to see him, I don't want to see him.
I don't think you want to see him against TCU.
No. Matt McCann had mentioned it earlier. He is, hurt, and it doesn't look like that he's going to be back. The coaching staff expressed concern for his availability moving forward. So looked like a leg injury. He was kind of testing it out on the sideline. I don't know the extent. But again, so Mark Strickford, DJ Washington, those guys look good. We'll probably see a rotation on Saturday of these guys. Lorenzo Neal is still out. I think once Purdue gets him back, if he can get back to the caliber of guy that he was playing at last year, Purdue's defense is going to be something special with the linebackers and the edge presence. So I'm hoping that he comes back. And then obviously Tario Fuller, Richie Worship, those two guys, broken jaw, and then the knee rehab we mentioned before. Those guys aren't going or aren't close to playing again. So really, I think Purdue's going to have everybody except for Matt McCann from the Vanderbilt game, which is a positive. So this is how Purdue is going to win on Saturday night. We'll start with the offense because it's so dynamic. It's going to be, I think, can Purdue get into a rhythm, and can they protect Sindelar as well as they did against Vanderbilt, against a Gary Patterson-led team that is known for his defensive prowess. The line has very talented defensive tackles, so I don't even know if I'm going to say anything about our running game. It's probably going to be non-existent again. I would love to not see that, but the actuality is probably not going to see very much of it. Enough to keep the defense honest to allow for the play action pass. But it's going to be the quick stuff. If there's pressure, can we devise schemes and get Rondell Moore, David Bell, Milton Wright, whoever, the ball quickly enough to alleviate some of that pressure off the line to open up the downfield stuff? It's going to be really important for Purdue's line with all of the inexperience in communicating stunts. Stunts are obviously immensely hard to pick up. You got, the guy right in front of you, hard diving to your right, and you're trying to follow him, but right off his tail comes the defensive end. If you don't step into him, he's got a free run at the quarterback, and that's happening all over the place. So can Purdue's line do a good enough job of communicating, preparing, and all of that to be ready for that game? If we see that, I think Purdue's offense is going to be able to pick apart the secondary. And I say that because against the FCS opponent, it was like Arkansas Pine something. Lord knows who they are. Receivers were getting open, but the quarterback was having a hard time getting the ball to him. I don't think that's going to be the case with Sindelar. He's got more than enough gas in the arm to get the ball wherever it needs to be and accurately. So it's really going to be the offensive line is going to be the key to this game for Purdue on offense, because we all know Sindelar is clearly a better passer in rhythm with a little bit of time. able to make a couple reads before making a decision, not being forced. Obviously, he was forced in the screenplay, and we saw the layup interception happen. So it's going to be a really, really, really important for Purdue to kind of protect him. The other thing is going to be Rondell Moore. So I think we saw it last year a little bit with, I'm going to say, Michigan State. Coach D'Antonio, a big defensive-minded guy. How do you eliminate the best player on the field for Purdue? I thought he did a great job against Rondell Moore. Obviously, you can't contain him fully, but enough to take him out of the game where Purdue can't get into a rhythm.
And it took an NFL roster guy, and Kari Willis, who was a safety at Michigan State, to kind of slow Rondell Moore down. It takes a lot.
So we'll see what Gary Patterson has scheme-wise for Rondell Moore, but in my mind, if they choose to double team him or give him extra attention, we've got better athletes at the receiver position to make an impact. So it's going to be on those guys, David Bell, Jared Sparks, Mont Anderson. The tight ends are going to be a big, big, big time factor. Can Bryson Hopkins continue to find that space in between the safeties and the linebackers like he's done all year up to this point? So, really going to start up front, and then how the playmakers outside of Rondell Moore, do depending on what the offense is seeing. And then can Rondell Moore get out of that too? So it should be an interesting thing on offense. I think Purdue is going to be okay. I think we'll see a lot of quick stuff first, and then depending on the pressure, we'll see the downfield shots. But if there's no running game, then the downfield shots are going to come often. So just kind of be ready for that. For Purdue's defense, again, TCU is very heavily run focused. Can our front seven, against probably the biggest line up to this point that we have seen without Lorenzo Neal in there, slow down this offense? And I mean, it's almost like a football cliche, but the running game opens up the passing game through play action, through different looks to get the linebackers' eyes into the backfield. If Purdue struggles against the run, TCU is going to have an easy time throwing the ball around because there's just going to be a lot of space behind the linebackers because they're trying to come downhill. And that's the kind of running danger that TCU faces. So really, I think, Jalen Reagor, he's going to do his thing. I don't think Purdue has like a number one guy that's going to follow him. So it's really just going to be making sure we contain him, but it's going to all start at the front seven. If we can stymie the running game a little bit, at least kind of even the playing field and let our pass rush get to the quarterbacks that are throwing the ball, I think we'll stand a pretty good chance here. So for my prediction, I think Purdue wins. I'm not really good at scores. I think it's going to be a close game again. I'm going to say 35-28. Purdue wins by a touchdown.
Oh, okay, all right.
But it's going to be a bit of a grit fest until the end, and I think Purdue's just going to be able to run enough circles around TCU's defense to get an extra score at the end.
So me, on the other hand, I love predicting scores, Austin. Let me double check it. I'm just gonna go with whatever. I think it was 34. I don't know where the sheet is. I think I had 34-24. I think Purdue makes another statement, and wins by 10. But I also wanted to bring up that what's interesting about this game is the spread. Like I'm not big. I don't want to sound like I'm a gambling addict, but I like sports betting. I don't really bet much, but I like following like the spreads and money lines and stuff. It's Purdue -1 right now, I think,
which has gone down from like the 3.5.
Yeah,
I think,
which is like
over the
pretty
weekend.
much is like just a head-to-head. Like just play it. Like 1 point is nothing. So Vegas obviously thinks it's going to be a close game. And obviously Vegas doesn't want to lose money. They don't. I mean, obviously it could be a blowout for all we know. But it's going to be a fun game to watch with TCU's defense. Interesting to see what Purdue does offensively. If you can even attempt to get a run game going. But I think after last week's game, I think Purdue rolls into this game and wins. Goes out with a 10-point W, 34-24.
All right. So both taking Purdue to win this game, which is exciting. Again, night game, 7:30 at Ross-Ade. Big Ten Network's got the call, I believe. So be sure to tune in and watch that. So we'll go into some quick recruiting notes, really just focusing in on who was at the Vanderbilt game. Malik Carr came up again to watch this game. I think we've all kind of established that he's one of the locks for Purdue, a 4-star wide receiver or tight end. He's a pretty big guy, but he moves well. So a 4-star guy, regardless, with some big-time offers, narrowed it down to Purdue and Georgia. He was at the game. Excuse me, Yanni Karloftis, George Karloftis' younger brother, the number 10 outside linebacker in the country. He was there. Obviously, he's going to be there a lot with his brother there and Purdue being his backyard, basically. But he enjoyed the game. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen for his recruitment for Purdue is how well does George play, how well does he play, and how much can they develop him. So he was really happy with what he saw. Obviously, his brother led the country in pressures last week. This week, didn't get as much, but still made a big impact against a bigger offensive line. So really positive things there. Ryan Keeler, a guy that Michigan is kind of all over him because they've got J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback for, I think they play Nazareth Academy in Illinois, a powerhouse there. But so Ryan Keeler was there, I think he sees opportunity at Purdue. Obviously, these are big time schools coming after these guys too. So we'll continue to see how that develops. And then Brady Allen, a 2021 Indiana quarterback. I think he's a sophomore right now. So I think he's 6'5". He's got offers from Purdue, Indiana, Virginia Tech, and a couple others. I think Ball State as well. So he was there. It really enjoyed seeing the game. So a great game to have some big-time guys and have a really good win where you absolutely dominated through the air and did well on defense, but obviously enough there for a guy to say, hey, I think I could come in and help here. So that was with the game. Just an interesting little tidbit. A couple guys that Purdue may have its eye on and go back in on. Jalen Parker from Georgia Purdue was high on him, and he committed to Colorado. Recently decommitted, and Purdue is now in his top 6 again. So we'll be interested to see how much that plays out. I believe Eddie Watkins, a guy that was committed to Georgia Tech for a long time, I really felt like Purdue went hard at him. He decommitted. And then another guy, Sean Martin from North Carolina. It just a matter of, do the guys really want to come to Purdue, or does Purdue really have an opportunity to get these guys here? And then the scholarship count. Purdue only has, I think, 10 or 11 guys that are going to be gone next year. So we're really strapped on scholarships. Supposed to have a bit of a smaller class this year. Obviously, it's kind of grown to more than what many were expecting. But really curious to see if Purdue goes at these guys with, obviously, Bryce Austin and Malik Carr, basically guaranteed spots in my mind for the Purdue 2020 class. So this is an interesting development to see. Whether we get these guys or not, I don't know. But I know Purdue was high on them. Looked like they were pretty high on Purdue. And, we'll just kind of see what happens after that. But we'll go around the horn here now. John, we'll start with the Big Ten. A couple of big-time surprises, a couple of not-so-big-time surprises. Obviously, Purdue beat Vanderbilt. Rutgers shutting out Iowa.
Whoa.
Excuse me. Iowa shutting out Rutgers.
What?
That would have been a shock. We'll move to my first big-time surprise here. Maryland putting up 63 points on Syracuse, who – I think it's Dino Babers is his name, the coach there. Really a defensive guy. Syracuse known for their defense. Obviously, they held Clemson to 24 points in Death Valley last year. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence got hurt too, but still, I think quite an interesting thing there. But, Maryland, so 79 against a nobody team. You're like, okay, they didn't play anybody. Syracuse comes into town. They're ranked. They've got a good defense. They just came off shutting out somebody that isn't very good, and they dropped 63 points on them. and 42 of those points were in the first half. I think Maryland's going to be a problem in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I can think that's safe to say. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of scary having another team in the East.
I think Purdue does play Maryland soon. So that, boy, if they continue to do what they're doing, it's going to be a very scary game. Mike Locksley over there obviously is doing some good things. A year early, as John and I discussed.
Yeah,
in our opinion.
Yep.
Cincinnati and Ohio State thought Cincinnati was going to put up more of a fight. They got shut out, so I guess I'm not overly surprised by that. One of the fun games, Army at Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan survives. Survives Army's triple option threat.
I'm going to say this.
Boy.
I think Harbaugh has surpassed James Franklin as the most overrated coach in the Big Ten. There were some moments in that game, dude. Wow. If he wasn't Jim Harbaugh, there'd be people calling for his head.
Oh, absolutely. But I think I'll give Michigan just a slight nod in the benefit of the doubt because the triple option team this early in the year, when you're still trying to figure out your own defense, is tough.
Yeah,
and boy, Army just about upset.
And Army's not they're not a bad team. There was more things that I seen on the offensive side of the ball. Like there was a 3rd and 2, I believe it was, and Michigan lined up in a strong formation, the fullback and a running back, and they had a receiver out wide on the left side, and Army had no one on him at all, and no one from the sidelines signaled that to Shea Patterson. To, hey, let's change this from a run up to the middle to just really quickly throw it to a guy where there's nobody within 20 yards. I mean, and then there's just other things too, like going for it on 4th and 2 or whatever it was, late in the fourth quarter on your opponent's 48-yard line, where Army's been moving the ball on you all day, and they got lucky enough to where they missed a 50-something yard field goal. I mean, there were some decisions in that game that I think Harbaugh's a elite recruiter, but I think in game he's not a good coach.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, boy, you would have really loved to have seen Army's kicker hit that 50-some yarder, kind of like what happened to Purdue and beat Michigan.
You wanted somebody to feel your pain?
Yeah, I did, but obviously that didn't happen. But it was an exciting game for sure. Michigan's got a lot to clean up for them to be as good as they're supposed to be.
One more thing on that. This is 5 years in to this Michigan Harbaugh era, and they still don't have an offensive identity. I mean, it's
supposed to be a spread, and they basically reverted back to just a running team because they were doing so poorly. And they did it out of the
shotgun too. They didn't even go into the power. I mean, and Charbonnet, whatever his name is, got freshman of the week with 33 carries for 100 yards,
That's not good.
Yeah, 3.3 yards per carry. I'm like, okay, whatever, I guess.
Yeah. So Michigan's got a lot of stuff there. I think a upset we both called. Nebraska lost on the road to Colorado.
Very entertaining game.
I'm looking at this. I didn't see much of it, but
oh, dude, it was the fourth quarter was nuts.
Well, I saw Colorado scored 24 points in the fourth quarter.
24-14, they beat Nebraska.
Whew. I'm looking at the supposed Heisman, guy for the Big Ten and Adrian Martinez, and I'm looking at 16 for 290, 2 touchdowns and interception, and I'm thinking, boy, that's pretty average.
And he fumbled in overtime.
And he lost them the game with a fumble. So that an upset, I think we both called, so not too surprising there. But obviously, it looked like Nebraska had it in hand, but nope, they Purdued it.
What do you call it? Wisconsin hasn't given up a point yet.
No, the 61-0 shutout of Central Michigan. So that's boy, you hate to see a Wisconsin defense gain that kind of confidence because obviously they won't continue this, but you play with that swagger.
They have a bye week, but
possible.
I'm circling that Michigan-Wisconsin game on Saturday, September 21st. Both teams coming off a bye. You got Michigan who's kind of struggling, Wisconsin who's rolling right now. I mean, two teams that, are both Michigan's supposed to be a spread, but good defenses, pro style. It's going to be fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens when Wisconsin face a good team. Illinois beat Connecticut. Excuse me. IU rolled Eastern Illinois.
Illinois looks solid too, man. I mean, not Maryland surprising, but 24 points in the second quarter. They got a really good running back in Reggie Corbin. They're a team to look out for. To maybe get back to a bowl game this year.
I mean, Lovie Smith has been recruiting well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gotten 4-star guys to Illinois year after year when they win one Big Ten game. He's gotten 2 4-star transfers from the West Coast. I mean, yeah, at some point you got to put it all together, and it looks like they're kind of figuring themselves out here. We'll obviously see how that continues as the season progresses, especially into Big Ten play. But I feel like the same thing with Indiana. 52-0 is a pretty nice score, but actually I really don't care about them, so whatever. Penn State rolled Buffalo. Michigan State rolled Western Michigan. So, John, real happy about the offense there.
Orgasm.
And then Minnesota wins against Fresno State in double overtime.
Yeah,
so,
my sleeper in the Big Ten is not looking so hot this year.
Well, to their credit, Fresno State was a very good team last year. They lost a lot of talent, but they were 12-2 last year, so certainly not a chump team.
Minnesota also struggled week 1 against as South Dakota State, 128-21.
Yeah, so we'll kind of see how that all goes. And I did not look. I thought I had the week 2 scores.
I can pull it up.
Oh, here we go. I got them. So the top 25, Clemson and A&M. 24-10 Clemson. I think we both knew Clemson was going to come out on top. A bit of an ugly game, but I think Clemson
in the pick'ems you got me on that. I took Clemson to cover the 17.5, and Texas A&M ended up scoring a touchdown late.
Hate to see it.
The world of betting.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just knowing what that game was last year in College Station, I couldn't cover that.
I think Clemson's looked somewhat sloppy so far this year, but I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Yeah, and then Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma all rolled their FCS opponents. It looks like everybody scored over 60 points. Nothing to break down there. Talked about Ohio State shutting out Cincinnati. The exciting game. Yep. Top 10 showdown. LSU went into Austin against Texas. Yeah, that game was back and forth in the fourth quarter. Texas was doing enough, but boy, you hate to give up a 3rd and 17 completion for a touchdown if you're Texas. I mean, what a killer in the fourth quarter, like big time killer. So Texas Texas loses at home to LSU. Michigan obviously escaped Army in double overtime. Notre Dame was off. Auburn, not a super great look, 24-6 against Tulane. And I think that game was kind of like
real quick. This is why I think the whole betting world is interesting with spreads and stuff, because there's an interesting stat that I listened to on a football betting podcast that Auburn was 0-7 in games after winning, beating a ranked team against the spread, and they did not cover. No matter who their opponent is, they struggle after winning a big game.
That's weird.
Yeah, there's weird stats like that, and I was like, I didn't have the balls to bet it, but
Florida rolled UT Martin, Utah rolled Northern Illinois, upset Cal beating Washington. So a team that we talked of pretty highly last week with Jake Eason.
My Oregon playoff pick is dead, and my Washington playoff sleeper team is dead.
Boy, the Pac-12
and every time I feel like we talk about a couple teams from the Pac-12, man, they got some quarterbacks, their coaching's fine, they could finally get there, and then they lose in the first couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how Auburn finishes, but how much Oregon will be held depending on how they finish. Their only loss coming to Auburn if that's how it pans out. I don't know if it's enough to get them into a playoff, but I'm sure that won't be held over their head unless Auburn, just tanks out like they did last year. But Penn State rolled Buffalo. Oregon 77-6 destroyed the spread. It's Nevada, and for whatever reason, I picked the under because I'm stupid.
I don't call you stupid. I don't think anybody was expecting 77-6.
But I mean, I don't know.
34 is a lot of points to give, but I just thought Oregon was going to be trying to prove a point, and I guess if you're a 0-1 team that still wants to win the Pac-12 and maybe make the playoff, 77-6 is what you have to do against teams that you should beat.
Yeah. Wisconsin obviously has yet to give up points. UCF continues to look pretty good against inferior opponents. They rolled Florida Atlantic. Michigan State obviously took care of business. Iowa took care of business. Maryland's going to be in the top 25 next week, or this week, I guess. I mean, they're just incredible performance offensively.
The new AP poll came out. Are they in there?
Oh, that actually is at the top of the screen.
Go ahead and...
Yeah, they are 21. They're ranked 21st.
Perfect. I like it.
So
a lot of Big Ten teams in there.
Yeah, a lot of Big Ten teams. Washington State is your only Pac-12 hope at this point. Mike Leach and his air raid team. So they rolled a FCS team. USC pummeled Stanford 45-20.
The battle of the backups.
Yeah, and clearly Southern Cal's got the better of the backup there. Boise State eked out a win against Marshall after a thrilling win in Tallahassee against Florida State, who Florida State almost lost to.
Did you see that picture of Florida State with the receivers lined up backwards?
Yes, and the caption was "This sums up Florida State football."
Was that real?
I don't know. I don't know.
It
might as well be with what they're doing.
I was say I seen the tweet and I retweeted it, but I'm thinking to myself, how is that real?
I don't know, but they almost lost to, I don't even know what team it was. I mean, the dude shanked an extra point in overtime for Florida State to win. So
yeah, Willie Taggart,
who knows what's going on there?
I feel like.
Oh yeah,
that's a program that should not be struggling. That's almost like a Michigan where you can just say we're Florida State and get recruits. So not pretty.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And then. Obviously, we talked about Colorado upsetting Nebraska at home, and then Iowa State was off. So that was the around the horn with the top 25. Clemson's still the top spot, then Bama, Georgia, LSU. So 3 SEC teams in the top 5. I guess that's not too surprising, but they're pretty top heavy. So that's all I got, John. Any final thoughts?
No, I think week 3s tend to be pretty boring matchup wise. It seems
Purdue's not going to be boring. You
guys had a fun game. I just mean outside of our 2 teams. I'm just taking a quick peek here. Yeah, Michigan State, Arizona State. Michigan State's minus 13. That's went up. Florida, Kentucky's in it. I think Kentucky's kind of a low key team to keep your eye out for. Oklahoma's going to roll UCLA. Yeah, there's really nothing that screams woohoo to me. It's going to be tough picking the pick'ems here for the pod tomorrow, but we'll get it done.
Well, I definitely think that, to your point, that Florida-Kentucky game will be worth something because Kentucky beat Florida last year, and they hadn't done that in forever.
Right.
So will be interesting to kind of see that. Syracuse, Clemson obviously struggling a little bit. Syracuse got pummeled. That might be okay.
I would be biased and say Michigan State, Arizona State, but I don't know much about Arizona State this year. They lost their quarterback. They're starting a true freshman. And Vegas has Michigan State at minus 13. And a true freshman going against Michigan State's defense is not what you want.
Yeah, Iowa State might be okay.
Yeah.
And Hawaii, Washington.
Ooh, that's a fun quarterback battle right there between Cade McDonald and Jacob Eason.
Yeah, just a freaking sling it fest, basically.
Yep.
Maybe BYU, USC. I don't know. BYU is one of those teams.
And they beat us.
Florida State, Virginia. Virginia's ranked in the top 25.
Florida
But Florida
State is
State's
atrocious.
kind of
Yeah, anytime you
yeah.
see Virginia favored 7.5 points over Florida State, something's going on.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, to your point, that's really I think that's
Well, maybe I should throw the Oregon-Montana game on the pick'em for you. Oregon's giving 36.5.
I mean, I feel like I have to take and go over after they just
that game.
shellacked.
That game will not be on the pick'em list.
Yeah, please don't.
36.5 is brutal.
That's a big number.
Real quick, last thing. Alabama was favored by 55 against New Mexico State. My buddy bet on New Mexico State, and Bama won by 51, so he got it.
Wow. That's clutch. That's big time.
Yeah.
That's big time right there.
Alabama never covers because they're always like favored by 50-something points.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, but still, they almost, well, I guess almost doesn't count, so whatever.
Right.
All right. Well, as always, I'm Austin, co-host John Emmons. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you heard tonight, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Voice of the Fan, and also give us a listen on SoundCloud. And if you could, like our page on Facebook at Voice of the Fan and follow us on Twitter at Voice of the Fan PC. Thanks, everyone.